Hello there. Welcome to this slightly off topic. We don't normally do sessions anything other than a Monday live. So this is really new territory for me. I'm very, very pleased that we're doing this first one with two people who I've spoken to in the past. It's on a kind of really timely piece of news. So let me just firstly welcome them one at a time. Hello, Oliver Sild. How are you doing?
Hi. Great to be here.
Yeah, you're very welcome. Thank you. And Robert Jacoby, how are you doing?
Excellent. Got a wave so everyone knows it's live and real.
Okay, it really is live and real. To that point, if anybody is listening to this, and for example, you may be a Patchstack, formerly WebArcs customer, and it may be that you've got concerns about things, and equally, you might be a Cloudways customer and you've got concerns about things, or simply questions. Feel free to drop them in the comments. We will try to answer as many as we can. We're going to keep this nice and short, maybe 20 minutes or so. So drop the questions in pretty quickly if you've got any. But just to say that we're just going to ask a broad range of questions. We'll see where we are with the landscape at the moment. But we have some news that came rolling off the press last week. And it was to say that Patchstack, as I said, formerly WebArcs, has formed a partnership with Cloudways. And to that, I just want to give both of you like 30 seconds or so to just introduce yourself, and just so that we're sure that we're talking to the right people, tell us who you are and what your role is so that we know that you can actually answer the questions. So let's start with Robert. Tell us about your lovely new job.
That's relatively new, but yeah, definitely new in scope and expanse and excitement. I am the director of WordPress at Cloudways, which means I ultimately oversee everything from partnerships to community outreach and all the internal nitty-gritty of how we at Cloudways work with WordPress, contribute back to WordPress, and make WordPress successful for our customers.
Just another quick question on that. Is that a new role within Cloudways, or has Cloudways had this and you are one of many people who've fulfilled that role?
It is a brand new role. I started at the end of April, and just trying to find, it's one of our strongest business units, and we're looking for a way to just kind of, make it more, what's a fun little business word, more efficient.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I mean, it's nobody who's been in the WordPress space for any length of time could have failed to have heard the word Cloudways. It's just one of those companies that keeps coming up when you talk about hosting. But really nice to have a dedicated WordPress person taking the helm, but also really nice that it's you, because I've got a lot of respect for you. And if you don't know Robert's history, go and check him out online. You'll quickly understand why Robert is the right person for a job like this. So congratulations, well done. And sorry, that sounded really condescending. Like, oh, well done, Robert. It was sincerely meant. I do apologize. The other bit is to Oliver. Tell us, firstly, just tell us who you are, and then we'll get into why it's now called Patchstack and not WebArcs.
Yeah, my name is Oliver. I'm the CEO and co-founder of Patchstack.
Sorry, carry on.
Yeah, so what we do is we help WordPress websites to understand if there's any vulnerable software installed, like plugins, themes on your websites, and protect you from those.
Okay. Now, people will be familiar with WebArcs. You've been a leading force. People have been talking about this company for many years, but recently went through a change, most notably from blue and red to green, and yeah, all sorts of other things. Why the need to change from what felt like a brand that was being built and well established, and suddenly just pivot and give it a different name altogether?
Yeah, like WebArcs have been, or WebArcs, exactly the problem that I'm describing right now. Like, one of the things is that WebArcs itself was pronounced so many different ways that even us had to have like notes of how many different ways you could actually spell that name. But that was like one of the small things, really. But eventually, over time, we created another product around WebArcs called Plug Bounty, which was a bug hunting, or let's say like a community of security researchers, for WordPress for WordPress security. And then in early 2021, we also acquired another WordPress security company called ThreatPress. And then we were with three brands doing the same thing,
Right.
and we needed to somehow twiddle between all those three kind of names. So we decided that we just named them into one thing and really named them as what we do. We patch the stack. So it's a Patchstack.
Well, I'm glad that you've explained all of that. I didn't realize that there were the three companies going on in the background, which was a little bit difficult to manage. But anyway, if you've ever heard of WebArcs, get rid of that word from your vocabulary and replace it. Put in its place the word Patchstack, because that's what they are now. But the product is essentially offering a very similar thing. So we've got Cloudways on the one hand, we've got Patchstack on the other. Cloudways a host, Patchstack all about security. Last week, at some point, I don't know exactly what day, we had an announcement. I'm just going to quote from the PR piece. It says, Cloudways, a cloud hosting provider focused on simplicity and productivity, is announcing a partnership with WordPress security tool provider Patchstack. This is the bit that I want to focus on. The security company's features will be fully integrated into Cloudways to allow users to scan and automatically patch vulnerabilities in WordPress plugins and themes. Perhaps if I send this one in Robert's direction, and then if he wants to bat it off to Oliver, he can. If I was a Cloudways customer, do we have any insight yet? Are the details thrashed out about how this is going to be, what we're going to be looking at when we log into Cloudways?
So, sort of as we speak, we're going through the actual implementation process. What we want to do is make this kind of security as accessible and easy to use as possible on the platform. We know that, the best way to protect your website is to have updated plugins and core. That doesn't always happen. There are zero-day attacks, and we recognize the need for a partner that can support mitigating, at a minimum, notifying, if not mitigating, those kinds of issues. So there will be a sort of global free layer at a minimum that everyone will be able to take advantage of, and then we're going to see how some of the technical implementation works out for mitigating those issues.
So as yet, we don't have a thorough understanding of what the interface will look like and what have you. But it basically, you're just pulling in a tier of the Patchstack and you're enabling it for free. I suppose that's a question I have to ask at some point. Is there going to be a pricing structure that you know about this, or is it going to be the full Monty? Sorry, that's an English expression. It just means the whole thing. The full
I saw
Monty.
That movie. There was a lot of naked people in that.
Well, that wasn't what I intended at all. But is there going to be a sort of tiered structure to this? Maybe there'll be the basic free plan and then other bits on top of that. Maybe that's for Oliver or both of you.
I think it's hard to anticipate that kind of tiered structure.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. So,
yeah, there will be free tiers for the main value that you would obviously get is to even to understand what kind of vulnerabilities there are for your websites, what needs to be worked on as soon as possible, and really, yeah, I mean, as we are working on that as we speak, so you're definitely going to see that rolling out soon, and you're gonna get a better overview of what's going to be there.
It's fun for your audience, Nathan, because everyone's getting to see how the sausage is being made.
Yes, that's right. Well, that's quite nice. But also, it is kind of nice that you're in that period where, well, these things are being thrashed out, and I don't know how open your email inbox is, but if you are a customer and you've got thoughts as to, well, I would like it to be like this, then maybe this is the time to put your boot in, and so on. I was curious about the ability. This may sound like a rather peculiar question considering we've got Oliver on from Patchstack, but on the Cloudways side, is there any kind of this is going to be switched on by default approach, or will it be, look, just come to Cloudways, we've got this offering, you can toggle it on, but what if they come with a some other software that they've been using for many years that they're happy with?
We haven't decided on default. Is always one of those wonderful questions. What problem are we solving best by having something, opt in or opt out? I think for most end users, being notified of issues will be, a default option. You definitely want to know if there is a 0-day on a plugin that you're utilizing, and how you can take care of that, how to mitigate that. So I think for the overall security of WordPress, our customers, the internet, it makes sense to at least notify people of what's going on.
The promise that is in the PR document is that it will automatically patch vulnerabilities and so on. So this one's definitely in Oliver's court, I think. How does Patchstack work? What is the sort of platform that you've got going on in the background there? How do you gain access to the knowledge about these vulnerabilities that are going on? I noticed that in the PR piece it talks about something called a red team, which most of us probably won't be familiar with. So maybe you could spend a bit of time talking about who you are, what your company does, and how you actually locate this information in the first place.
Yeah, sure. So the Patchstack really comes together from like three main parts. So there's Patchstack app, which you use to connect your website with and to get the patches for the vulnerabilities if you have any on your websites. Then there's Patchstack database, which is publicly available information about any WordPress security related information. So you could just go to patchstack.com database. You will see all the vulnerabilities that are known in the WordPress ecosystem. And then there's Patchstack Red Team, which is really the kind of strong core behind the whole Patchstack project, which is the community of independent security researchers. So you can take it off as, if you use Patchstack, you might have like hundreds of security, experts really, working behind the scene to protect your websites. Patchstack Red Team is combined of, those ethical hackers, let's call it this way, who report on a monthly basis new vulnerabilities that they find in WordPress plugins, in themes, in core, and then report this to the Patchstack Red Team platform, where we have our internal, security experts who validate this information, the security information. And then at the moment when we put this information up to the Patchstack database, at the same moment we create virtual patches which are being shipped to all of our customers who have connected their websites with Patchstack. So as a very good example, like we did a big survey in an analysis in 2020 about actually 2020 vulnerabilities discovered in the WordPress ecosystem, and there was about 580 something vulnerabilities known to the WordPress ecosystem. We started Patchstack Red Team project early this year, like on a full scale, and over the past 2 months, we have already, the Patchstack Red Team has already found over 400 vulnerabilities in WordPress plugins and vulnerabilities. So in plugins and themes, sorry. So in May only it was like 292 or something. So these are all the vulnerabilities that Patchstack knows first of. There's nobody else who knows about these vulnerabilities before Patchstack does, and therefore we can actually provide protection against these vulnerabilities before this becomes information that hackers could somehow exploit and take advantage of on your websites. So there is a very good kind of time win in terms of being able to provide protection to the websites.
Do you take data from, so this red team, it's not, some of them it sounds like are the employees of Patchstack, but some of them are sort of people who just are your wider community, if you like, who are just independent people who like to tell you about this kind of stuff. Do you also sort of go out further and, I don't know, take data from other sources like WP Scan and all that kind of stuff, or?
So we monitor pretty much every source. I mean, any information that is on the public scene needs to be, added to the Patchstack database. But the main source still is our internal research team, and of course Patchstack Red Team. So the difference between Patchstack, Patchstack internal researchers and Patchstack Red Team is that the Patchstack Red Team is, a community of independent researchers. They're not direct employees of us. It's a purely voluntary work that they do for finding these vulnerabilities in the WordPress ecosystem, but we pay them for their findings, or what we call for the contribution that they do for the WordPress ecosystem. So if you're a security researcher, you've been kind of looking into the plugins, security, you report vulnerabilities to us. We basically have like a really kind of smart way of determining, how big of an impact you do for the WordPress ecosystem for helping this plugin, developer to fix this vulnerability in their plugin. And then based on that, in every end of the month, we have like a leaderboard system where we basically, have, cash prizes for the top security researchers who contribute the most to making the WordPress, ecosystem more secure. And the community is growing pretty much every week. So this is very open community, anyone can join.
Thank you. I know Robert has a deep and rich history with just open source in general, and very important that we emphasize one of the bits which might be easily missed in the PR release. It was fairly close to the bottom. Again, I'm going to quote, and then I'm going to hand it over to Robert. It says, Cloudways is releasing a WordPress command line interface, WP CLI packages designed by Patchstack that will be available for everyone to use as open source. It goes on, but I wonder if you could give us any insight into how this will work. Are other hosting companies going to be able to implement this if they wish to? Will you be able to take this elsewhere? How does that bit work?
So, one of the things that, I find very personally valuable and important for what, we can do at Cloudways is contribute whatever makes sense or possible back to the community. So working with Patchstack, there are certain hooks and integrations. The technology is way above my head. That's what Oliver is here for. But on the whole, security of the WordPress ecosystem benefits everyone. So, whether these are, hooks that take, I'm trying to remember exactly one of them. I think one of the pieces that we added in is, how to deal with premium plugins and being able to, submit keys as well as part of that command line interface, and making sure that that's, these connections that happen between, Patchstack specifically, but also that, this submission can actually work with other systems as well. But, if Patchstack, which I believe is, the premier WordPress mitigation, solution out there, can be utilized by more people, that just helps everyone. And a more secure WordPress makes a better ecosystem, allows us to do other things that we really want to do besides worrying about, the maintenance and security of our WordPress sites.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I love it when there's an open source aspect to just about anything, and this could easily have not had that. So I'm just delighted that you've made the effort there.
Sure. Yeah, we could have easily just built in a proprietary hook on our, WCLI, sort of end of the universe, but we felt it was important to contribute back.
Yeah, and hopefully as the days and weeks pass and we get more of a concrete understanding of how this is all going to work out, that'd be something to look at. Interesting question coming in from Russell. Hello, Russell. I don't think we've met before. Russell Semenov. It says, how is this is right at you, Robert, if you've got an answer. How is this going to correlate with Cloudways bot protection provided by Malcare, which I understand is the way it's done at this moment in time?
So Malcare, handles a level of stuff. We're looking for some of the 0-day things that are going to come through on Patchstack. So they'll play nice with each other. I'll put that, in one way. And I guess that's it. I mean, you'll have more choices, but certainly we want Patchstack to be the forefront for notification and awareness around what's going on, with your WordPress plugins and themes.
Alex, who's actually been on the Monday show that you've both been on, thinks this is cool. Knows there's a bunch of shared companies already out there. Constantly scan client accounts, and they will let you know immediately as soon as they detect some sort of malware. You've alluded to this already, but maybe Oliver, if you could, if you switch this on, if you toggle this on in the Cloudways backend, is it just going to notify you of things, or as the PR document says, is it going to attempt to fix things on your behalf without any interaction from you? Certainly notifications would be important, but knowing that things are going to be taken care of in the background as well would be important.
Let me just take a first quick stab at this. Sorry, Oliver.
Of course. Yeah.
Malware means it's already on your, in your environment. So you're already, as we like to say, SOL. So the whole point of using something like Patchstack is to notify and interdict and mitigate before that even gets to you. So notify you so you can do an upgrade if an upgrade is available, mitigate via Patchstack's mitigation process. So that's the critical, difference. So if there's malware, you're already in trouble and you're hitting backups, and hopefully you can mitigate some of that in real time. But we want to be a step ahead of that. Sorry, that's
that's a good answer. That's a good answer.
Okay. We've sort of run out of time. I think we're well beyond our 15-minute allocated for this, so we'll kind of wrap it up. From my point of view, just somebody sort of sitting watching this, I don't have any connection to either of the two companies. It's just really nice seeing two completely different bits of our ecosphere sort of coalescing and joining together, and we see so much in this space at the moment where one thing is bought by another thing, and then it gets sort of consumed by it, and we don't quite know what goes on there. I'm enjoying reporting on a story where there's a partnership where Oliver is still Patchstack, Cloudways is still Cloudways, and I just think that's really nice. I hope
it's probably a disturbingly open conversation. I mean, again, if someone's an expert at something, I think, and I'm going to keep time back because this is so critical. At that security point, it helps the whole community to have leaders in that, and it doesn't help Cloudways to be, we're going to take it all, yum 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 yum. That's not going to, that rising tide lifts all boats, and I think we all benefit from that.
Yeah, in an ideal world, Oliver, forgive me. In an ideal world, Oliver's industry wouldn't exist, but unfortunately, there are people out there who want to really make a mess of every bit of sweat and blood and tears that we pour into our websites, and so it's really nice that you guys have taken the initiative, got on a phone call. I don't know how all that worked out, but you've got yourself together. Last question, very quickly. If I were to be a Cloudways or Patchstack customer, roughly what sort of timescale are we looking for things to become visible and toggleable?
We are going to be full steam ahead on our implementation throughout July. So we hope to see something by... I'm going to get so in trouble for putting up time.
Can I just say, just 2 months to whatever you're about to say. Just
X months.
In a perfect world, I would see things at the beginning of August, but I will check my Slack for how many emails from engineering.
I am not going to hold you.
You're already getting right.
That's right now. Nobody's going to hold you to that, but we're talking months rather than sort of portions of a year. That's really nice to hear.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for both of you for bothering to come on today. I really appreciate that, but also making the effort to build something cohesive within the WordPress ecosystem and open sourcing an aspect of it as well. That's really nice. I really appreciate it. Thank you to those of you that are watching. There's 20 odd at the moment, so that's really nice. Hopefully some people will watch it later. If they've got any concerns, have any of you got communication lines open? And if so, let's go for Oliver first. What would the best one be?
Yeah, you can DM me on Twitter. You can also email me at oliver.silt@patchstack.com. And yeah, I mean, Twitter is, I usually keep my DMs open, so you can always kind of reach out to me, and I would be very happy to discuss anything about, WordPress security. And thanks, Nathan, for having me.
Oh, you're welcome. Anytime. And Robert, same question.
Again, Twitter DMs is the best. Don't ever Facebook Messenger me, because that will never get responded to in a timely manner.
He's so right. It doesn't work. Do Twitter. It works.
3 months old. Twitter works great. Or email robert.jacoby@cloudways.com.
Okay, that's really nice. Thank you very much, guys. I appreciate you taking the time out with us today to talk about the integration between Patchstack and Cloudways. Cheers.
Thanks.